The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and I'm still coming to you from home, but we are live right now. Today is the 5th of February. I wanted to say December. That's how behind everything I am. It's the 5th of February and it's a rainy day in Los Angeles. I don't know if you can hear that we've got a little bit of rain sound on the roof of the patio heater that's coming through. But that's all it is. And we desperately needed some rain. And we'll continue to take all of your prayers because, after the fires, we have to be very careful about mudslides. So we're sending a big hug to everybody here in LA and hoping that all goes well. But we do need the rain. Heaven knows we need the rain. So very excited to be here with you this morning. We got a great guest. He's been a regular on the show for over 10 years. I'm talking about Alex Lynn, who's going to be joining us in about, 19 minutes. Alex, you probably remember, Alex is most well known for being the co-founder of the Autism Rocks concert. He's going to give us an update about that, as well as a lot of other things that are going on in his life and things that he wants to let you know. Now, we play a disclaimer at the start of the show that says that the opinions expressed by Autism Live and the guests and the host are not necessarily those of Autism Live or Autism Media Network. I'm probably going to say that a couple of times throughout the show. I can't tell you how important it is to me and to all of us here at the Autism Network that we create a space, a safe space for individuals who are on the spectrum, whatever words they use, neurodivergent, neurodiverse, autistic, who have autism, whatever words they use. It's very important to us to create a space in which those individuals can be heard and seen and heard. And so we frequently invite guests and we want to hear their opinions. Now, it's a very fine line, right? Because, there are a lot of things on this show that we kind of deliberately don't delve into because there's so much controversy and people have so many feelings about it. I have a feeling we're going to touch in on some of those a little bit later on today because Alex gave me a warning that he wanted to talk a little bit about vaccines. Everybody take a breath. It was very important to me that we give Alex the space and the time to talk about what he wants to talk about. He also was made aware of our boundaries here, that we, are very serious about, calling an opinion and only presenting things that are scientific. And so anyway, we're going to have a conversation that may include some of that and may not, but I just wanted to prepare everybody because it's important. Want to remind you that we're live right now on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, and about a dozen other sites. And our fabulous Chris Desmond will show you some of the different ways that you can be watching the show or listening to the show. There are a lot of you who watch us on our YouTube channel and have for over 14 years. Kind of amazing. If you haven't checked out our YouTube channel, I really encourage you to, because there's a library of videos about all kinds of topics with all kinds of guests. I'm at the point where I don't remember everybody that I've interviewed. I have sometimes been at an event or, some sort of a autism party or whatever it is, and people will come up to me and it's especially those that I've interviewed in this format where we're virtual and they're not in the studio, which is most of our guests over the 14 years. And they'll say, I'm so-and-so, you interviewed me on your show, and I'm gobsmacked and embarrassed because I don't remember, because it's been a long time, and I'm getting older. But in any case, Alex, I could never forget, because Alex has been, as I said, a regular. So there's no possibility that I or anyone could ever forget Alex. So looking forward to having him here and listening to his viewpoint, which is vital and important. And it's near and dear to our heart to give him the space to have his opinion, even if I don't agree with everything that he says, because I don't agree with everything that anybody says. Let's be honest about that. Okay, so as I said, you can be watching on YouTube and go back and look at some of those interviews. They're great. But we know that the lion's share of you are listening in podcasts, that's sort of the convenient way to get your information now. And maybe you're listening as you're taking a hike or in the car or, waiting to pick up your child from OT or speech or ABA, whatever it is that you're doing, right? We love it when you download our free podcast. It is available wherever you get podcasts. That's really important to us, that it is available for free. Obviously, we're all adults and we know that nothing is free, so you will notice that there are advertisements that play on those podcasts. And I hope that you embrace that and think, woohoo, they're paying so that I don't have to pay for this podcast. Although some of you have said, nah, I pay a little bit myself and have a free, ad-free podcast. And you can do that as well. You can go to glow.fm/autism live, and for $5 a month you can subscribe and get everything we do here on the Autism Network ad-free. It immediately comes into your inbox. That's Autism Live, that's Ask Dr. Doreen, that's Stories from the Spectrum, Today's Hyperfixation, Let's Talk Movies with Shannon and Moira. It's everything that we do, and you get that. As soon as it podcasts, it goes into your inbox. You can listen to it whenever you choose to, but you will have it ad-free. So just letting you know, $5 a month. It's actually even cheaper if you do it by the year. Up to you. But that's what the skinny on that is. And as you know, our mission here is to provide information and inspiration to that larger autism community. Starts with individuals who identify as being on the spectrum themselves, whatever words they use. We like to be very inclusive here, and let individuals tell us what words they use. But we also include in that community everyone who loves those individuals. I believe very strongly that in addition to supporting individuals on the spectrum, if we are supporting the individuals who love them, we will get to more things better, right? So you say, I always say that we hold hands, we get there together. That's important. I don't know about you, but I want to be a good ally. I want to be a good accomplice to the people that I love that identify on the spectrum. So that's what we're doing here, and we want you to come with us. We want you to be a part of that in whatever way works for you. We encourage you to write in and ask questions. The chat is open now, and anything from saying hi to telling us where in the world you're watching from. I see that Rosie is with us. I hope you got my email this morning. I sent you an email. So, all of that said, we're going to start the show off here with today's jargon. And this is a term that's come up a lot in the last couple of shows, so I wanted to make sure to feature it, and then we'll be joined by Alex. So today, the jargon of the day today is CBT, or cognitive behavioral therapy. Okay, if you've been watching the show over the years, we've done jargon of the day forever. It was the first thing that I wanted to do when we talked about doing the show, because people talk about concepts and things, and when you're trying to figure out what to do and how to fund it, it can just be so overwhelming. And then learning what these terms are and why it might be important to you is just one more thing on the overwhelm pile. So, and how do you find them? How do you, hi Rodney, how do you find the definitions? Because a lot of times, 10 years ago especially, you look these things up and the definitions were worse than the jargon of that you were trying to look up. It was filled with jargon. It's gotten better, and I'm so happy about that. So we give you two definitions. Sometimes there's one from some sort of a resource that we might make fun of, but most of the time anymore, it's just a compare and contrast and see if there's a nuance that we're missing. So let's take a look at this term, because if you're not familiar with CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, then you might want to be. So cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, is a form of psychological treatment that has been demonstrated to be effective for a range of problems, including depression, anxiety disorders, alcohol and drug use problems, marital problems, eating disorders, and several mental illnesses. Numerous research studies suggest that CBT leads to significant improvement in functioning and quality of life, And this comes to us from www.apa, that's the American Psychiatric Association.org. I think this is very interesting because it lists a whole bunch of things here that are disorders and anxiety disorders and all of these things, but notice that there is absolutely no mention of the spectrum or autism or anything in this definition, which is pretty interesting to me. But I think what I want to call out, especially for those of you watching, is the anxiety disorders, because they can often go hand in hand with autism. And sometimes the anxiety may not be to a point where it's diagnosed a disorder, but it can be disruptive for an individual who's on the spectrum. It's important to note that anxiety in its own is not officially a part of the autism diagnosis, but we see often it goes hand in hand, right? Dr. Granpeesheh was talking about this yesterday, that if you don't have the ability to understand some of the nuances of what's going on in the world around you, and you don't have the ability to communicate it, well, that would be anxiety provoking. That just makes sense, right? That would cause anybody a sharp amount of anxiety. So let's move on to the other definition and see if we can't get ourselves a little bit closer here. Cognitive behavioral therapy is a proven method of working on severe phobia. Oh goodness, we hadn't heard that in the last one. Fears and depression. It requires the patient to be able to notice their own thoughts and evaluate them. Okay, well, here's the big asterisk, and probably the reason why APA does not include this, include autism in its list of things that this may be helpful with. As at all stages of life, this would not be appropriate for anyone. That part of cognitive behavioral therapy, and I want to admit that I have been the great beneficiary of cognitive behavioral therapy, that after Jem was diagnosed with autism and all the things that happened and all the things that we put in place, listen, I'm somebody who's always had a fair amount of anxiety. But, you know, most of the time when I was younger, I managed it enough, right? I suffered from it, but I managed it enough. And then there just have been a couple of times in my life where stuff has happened where it kind of spiraled out of my control. And I will say that I think there was one time when I figured it out on my own after I spiraled. But after Jem was diagnosed and all the things that were going on, very often with anxiety, when it spirals, there's a triggering event. And boy, did I have a triggering event. We were invited, we had friends that they're a couple, that their birthdays are on the same day. So they always throw a big fun party. And they were throwing a big fun party at there used to be a piano bar upstairs at Universal City here in Universal Studios. And it was karaoke and just fun and comedy with the pianos. They were throwing this big party. And so my husband and I, you know, Jem was probably about to be 4. We were very involved in our ABA therapy, but we hadn't taken a lot of time off to go do fun things. And we didn't have a whole lot of babysitters, but we'd worked really hard to find a couple of babysitters that we thought we could go out for the night. And we, you know, in Los Angeles, it's a basin, and we lived over the first set of mountains out a little ways. So we had to come over the mountain to come into the valley to go to this party, but we prioritized it. We said it's important as a couple and as friends, and, you know, Jem has these babysitters. So we came over the mountain, and as we were coming into the valley, the car ahead of us just suddenly like slowed and pretty much stopped on the freeway. You know, it's dark, it's night, it was terrible. The very scary thing when the car in front of you wants to stop, because you don't know if the car behind you is going to rear end you, lots of pileups. Whoo! And then at the very last second, the car in front of us swerved, got into another lane. There was just a little pocket because there was a lot of traffic. And what was left in front of us that had fallen off of the truck before us was the most ginormous piñata I've ever seen in my life. It was like the size of our car, and it was in front of our car. And I was like, oh, okay, now what? And I really didn't have enough space and time So I, went forward, and now I've hit the pinata, and I'm dragging the pinata down the freeway, and sparks are coming up, and there's cars behind me, and I'm, got every warning signal on. It was probably 2.5 minutes on the freeway before we could get to the shoulder, because that I thought, well, surely this pinatas are lightweight. They're made out of nothing, paper and light wood. It's going to crumble underneath my car. No, I think it was going to catch on fire. And I thought, we're going to die. We are going to die. And in that moment, my husband and I are in the car together. And I thought, what's going to happen to Jem? Like, where will all of our hopes and dreams, is somebody else going to take care of the programs that we have in place? Who, like, I really hadn't taken care of business. I was still young enough that I thought I was invincible. But for 2.5 minutes, I thought we were going to die. And then we got off to the shoulder of the road. The pinata eventually broke down enough, whatever, we survived. But it left me with huge anxiety, you guys. And to the point where I stopped going out of my house, and I stopped driving, and would have panic attacks anytime that I would get behind the wheel. And we really got to the point where we didn't know what we were going to do. And then I did cognitive behavioral therapy. And the thing I love about cognitive behavioral therapy, but this is why it's so important, you have to understand that your thoughts are your thoughts. And there's a whole process they take you through where you understand that just because a thought is, it doesn't mean it's true or false, right? And you have to evaluate it. And one of the things that they would say to me is, okay, so you're having this thought right now that you're worried about being in the car because you could be in a car accident. And if you are, then your child's not going to have his mom. Is that a realistic fear? First of all. And I was like, well, yes, because that could happen, right? And then they were able to say, but how many times have you been in the car that it didn't happen? Oh, well, every time, right? It only takes once, but then I could sort of mitigate that while it is a possibility, it's never happened, and I've done it millions of times, right? And it kind of helps you to walk down your anxiety. It also presents exposures so that you can get used to something in a very mild way and not have a panic attack. Changed my life. I wouldn't be able to be here with you now. I wouldn't be driving my car. I literally got to the point where I remember crying one day because I was like, Jem's going to graduate and I'm not going to be there. You know? So I'm so grateful for cognitive behavioral therapy. Now, we have seen cognitive behavioral therapy work with even little kids on the autism spectrum, depending on what we're doing. Like, say the child has a huge phobia of dogs, that they can work on that with the child, even if they don't completely understand their own thought process, right? They can work with them on that. They can work on exposure to sounds and different things and help them to ratchet down their anxiety. But especially for teens and adults on the spectrum, if they're having tons of anxiety and the anxiety is preventing them from doing things that they want to do, I really recommend that you look into cognitive behavioral therapy because it can be so helpful to, it really gives them sometimes literally a menu of things to say, where are you? You're here. Okay, what can you do about that? What does this mean? Are you really okay? Like, do you need to get help? To evaluate things very cognitively to understand that what you're feeling is causing you to have all of these, what you're thinking and feeling causes you to have all these feelings, and you don't have to feel that way. So cognitive behavioral therapy, I swear by it. I think that it's absolutely wonderful. When I first started, they gave me a book that was called the Anxiety and Phobia Workbook. And over the years, anytime I see them, I buy them. And when people talk to me about having anxiety, I've given them all away. I don't even have my original copy because it's really good. So you can check that out as well. And, if you were to read through that and there are exercises in there, then you might see if cognitive behavioral therapy will help you or your child. And listen, if you're a parent of a child on the spectrum, I always say that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And I talk to parents all the time, and one of the things I ask them is, how's your anxiety? It's sort of a stupid question because the answer is always, oh my gosh, I have so much anxiety. And I just want to say that I think that a certain amount of anxiety is useful in life, but not so much that it's debilitating you. if you feel that you're having debilitating anxiety, let's help you. And then the skills that you learn will help your child, right? But if your child is having depression or anxiety, please look at this. Please don't just poo poo it and say, oh, they'll grow out of it. I haven't seen anybody outgrow anxiety and depression. All right? Much love to you on that. But let's bring in our guest because this is an amazing young man. I have to say that I can't remember if he was 14, 15, or 16 the first time I met him. But, and I mentioned this in Monday's show, that Alex is so persistent, that he is someone who he dreams big and he goes after his dreams. And I've always respected and admired that. It's inspired me many, many times. Of course, when I met him, it was because he had co-founded and was starting to do the very first ever Autism Rocks concert. And what an amazing event. I think that that was a life-changing event for me and a lot of other people to be at that first concert. And then he's continued to do them whenever it was feasibly possible. I think that a couple of years got taken off because of the pandemic. But it often it seems like, oh, this might be the last one. And then Alex pulls it out because he is driven and he is persistent, and these are very good qualities. I also want to say that when I met him, he was a high school student. He wasn't even a high school senior, and now he's fully graduated from college, and it's just a privilege to watch him grow up and become the man that he is. So, Alex, let's bring you in here. Welcome back to Autism Live.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's so
Thank
thrilled
you.
to have you here. And there's a lot that you had specifically asked, and from time to time you'll say to me, hey, I've got things I want to talk about. I did mention at the start of the show that we always do the disclaimer that, the thoughts and opinions of our guests are not those of Autism Network or Autism Live. I'm going to say that probably a couple of times because I want you to have the ability to say what you want to say, but I have to give the disclaimer. But we wanted to create the space for you. But first, let's just talk about how are things. Give us an update on you and how things are going.
Well, I mean, it's been a hard couple of months. I just been laid off in October, unfortunately.
I'm sorry.
It was hard, and I was sick with bronchitis for about 3 weeks.
Oh, pick
And
me. I'm in the middle of it, Alex. It's no fun.
oh, I think a lot of people are getting it. Even my grandparents are getting it, and that happened after my friend went on a rant for about 1 hour talking about like something that happened 2 years ago that I called him like 7 times from different random numbers, which I did feel bad about. And it was on my birthday, and he literally ruined it, and he made me feel really crappy about myself and about something that I did a mistake many years ago, and I have given him action figures that cost about like $300 because he's my first real friend.
Uh-huh.
And he really was defending me in the past, and I really wanted to show my appreciation. And when I gave him that gift in July, he he already didn't want to talk to me, but the way he kind of responded was kind of cold because I was going to give him a gift. He's like, just leave it in your 7-Eleven. And I was like, by that time I should have just, understood that I shouldn't probably have this person in my life. Because if he doesn't even care about the gift I'm giving him and have the respect that I have for him, then I shouldn't be friends with that person.
So
And
can we back up for a second? Was the dispute that you had called him 7 different times on 7 different lines? Is that what he was upset about?
no, he was. I was in the beginning. The conversation was pretty nice because we talked about we haven't hung out since January 2023, and this was November 17th, 2023. And then it was actually on my 2 days before my birthday, to be exact. But he bought me a birthday cake, and everything was going very well. And then he talked about he specifically talked to I asked him about how can we communicate better because as an autistic person, we don't know a lot about like social interaction, and we need to have cues from people so we can tell, you know. So like, and then he was like, okay, stop here, and then he went on the rant and says that he doesn't want to talk to me ever again, doesn't want to text me ever again. He give me once every year, but like somehow he cannot shake off what happened in the past for some reason. Even though I already said sorry, and he said he forgiven me for that, and I've learned that that's probably his problem because I already showed him that I try to change,
Yeah.
and I did everything I can already. I talk to this with my therapist all the time, and that I really did all I can, and I can't please everyone. You know, not everyone's gonna like me. That's what I've learned, and that I have to accept that,
Yeah.
and I have to start like loving myself more and not stop pleasing everyone that doesn't care about you. You know, it's not helpful. It's not healthy for me, and I've been trying to do that for so many years, and I'm just exhausted of
I'm
doing
sure
that.
you are. And I know we've talked before about it came up on Monday's show because we had a wonderful guest who identifies as being autistic on the show on Monday. It might be a great interview for you to watch, actually, Alex, because she's an author and an illustrator. And she was saying, sometimes people find me annoying. And I said, we're having a guest on the show on Wednesday, and this is one of the things that you've talked about before on the show is people saying to you or implying that you are annoying, and yet the thing that seems to be a theme, and correct me if I'm wrong, Alex, is that you it's some of your best qualities that you are persistent, and you like if you're going to get something done. If I needed to get something done, I would trust you above so many other people because I would know that you were going to go and get it done. You're like what Nancy Alspaugh Jackson says. You're like a dog on a pork chop. You're not going to give up. Now, we could look at that, and I'm sure that in the process of doing that, you are going to annoy some people and ruffle some people's feathers because not everybody moves at that speed. And yet, this seems to be one of your qualities that leads to the most success for you. So I always want to say to you, what I appreciate about our friendship is that you are always very open. In the past, if I have felt that there was something that you and I could communicate better, I've been very open with you and you have always been receptive. I sometimes worry because, you're often apologetic about it. And I want you to know, Alex, I don't ever need you to apologize. I really don't. Apologies are nice, but I don't need you to apologize. And I never want you to feel bad about yourself. Um, I accept you for who and how you are. But sometimes I want to communicate with you and say this form of communication works better, and you're so receptive. You never go, well,
Yeah,
I don't care how you want to hear, even. But we were talking before the interview and about when we're next going to talk, and you said to me, would you rather I email you or text you? And I just want you to know I so appreciate that. I really
yeah.
appreciate it.
I worked very hard with my therapist about that. She's been my therapist for 13 years. Dr. Zhao, she's one of, I mean, she is well known in Taiwan in the autism world, and she worked in San Francisco, and she is like, she has been a rock for me for so many years. And when I came out, when I didn't know about myself, if I was bi or gay or whatever, I didn't know who I was yet. Like she told me the things I needed to hear. She told me things when I needed to hear it. She told me things I needed to change when I needed to hear it at the right time.
Okay.
She wasn't like those other therapists that way before I met her, I met a lot of therapists, and I didn't personally like them because they not only didn't they dismissed my story, they kept asking me to change who I am as a person, and I can't do that because it's not me.
Right.
And they didn't even try to even didn't even care to listen about it, and they didn't care about anything I talked about. They just wanted to press on their own agenda and what matters to them the most, not what I care about, you know?
Yeah. And I gotta say, I'm sure it's a fine line, but just in terms of us, I accept you for who you are and celebrate that you are going to be persistent. This is what I
Yes.
know about you, and I don't ever want to change that. Why would I want to change that? That's a strong, strong quality. However, sometimes your persistence gums things up for me. But as I said, when I communicate with you and go, Alex, for me, that's too much. Here's what would be better. You always listen. And I don't know whether the rest of the people in the world around you know that how good of a listener you are. Have you tried reaching back out to this friend to say, "Hey, I want to listen to what your needs are
Um,
too"?
Actually, it's very interesting how he blocked me. Do you want to hear it? Um,
Well, it's up to you to,
well,
if you want to share that.
I did a leadership workshop,
Okay.
and towards the end, we had to do this exercise where we had to reach out to someone else,
Okay.
and to make amends. And I picked this person. I'm not gonna reveal his name because
Okay.
it's private.
Yeah.
And I asked like, "Oh, do you mind if we do a 10 to 20 minute phone call because it's this for the leadership workshop thing?" And I was very upset with what happened at the birthday thing with him because he went on a rant and he talked about things that happened 2 or 3 years ago that he already said sorry about. I thought we settled that beef a long time ago,
Yeah.
and I was very sorry about it, and I was very apologetic about it, and I was so upset I couldn't say anything. But if I could go back, I would yell at him and say like, "What else would you want me to do? I already did everything you wanted me to do. I have changed. I have tried to please you. I have given you gifts. I've done everything I could to help repair our friendship that I really care about. And you're my first real friend that showed me that that there's always that. How do I say this? You're the first real friend that ever stood up for me, and still means a lot to me. And before that, no one has ever done anything like that. That like standing up for me against any bully and saying like, "Don't bully him." No one has ever said that. No teacher, no anyone said that to me before he did. And I
Well, I'm
and I
glad he
really,
was there to say it, Alex. But I'm sorry that that was the first time. And I'm
yeah,
sorry that I'm sure that relationship matters to you a lot because of that.
yeah, and he actually I asked him for a 10 to 20 minute phone call so I could admit my guilt or whatever because the workshop wanted me to do that. And then um, he says you went over every single line, you crossed every single boundary, blah blah blah, and he blocked me.
So sorry.
And then my therapist and I agreed that he probably like if he might be going through something
Yeah.
or that something if something hasn't been right with me and him since last February. I, I mean he does have OCD. I don't know what's been happening with him, but
Yeah.
he does seem happier. But I mean, people say people change. I've learned that.
Yeah. I I can only say to you, and I'm sure that your parents have expressed this to you too, that in some ways life is so short, and we have to be careful not to let things that don't matter get in the way because life is so short. But on the other side, Alex, life is also long, and things change, and people change, come into your life for a season or a reason, and they leave, and sometimes they come back 10 years later, and it's
Yeah,
better. And, so I just want you to know that all is not necessarily lost with this friend. Maybe he is going through something and maybe he'll come back around. And in the meantime, if you can think, very good thoughts for him, um, I have found in my life that that helps me and that people sometimes come back and you get relationships back and they're better later down the road. So I hope that's what happens in this case. But I'm so sorry because this is a loss for you.
yeah. He's my first real friend, and he ever stood up for me in my life. Really, And I have another friend that was my first friend, and we had a and I we know the falling out. He's my first friend I ever had in my life, and then he something happened, and um, I don't want to talk more about it, but it just we ended up not talking, and then for a while, and then we reconnected 2 years ago, and he said the same thing that you were saying. Um, he's from UK, and he said that um, he's overreacting, and that he's not don't grovel
Yeah.
because of him, because like there's so much other stuff, there's so much other people that do accept you and love you, and don't look at this one person and say like he's everything and stuff. Just because he's your first friend doesn't mean we can't replace him and stuff. Anyone can be replaced in some way, even though it's hard. But yeah, that's yeah. I've learned a lot, and
Yeah.
I've grown from it.
Now, you went to this leadership workshop. What made you decide to do that?
It's called Be to Have, and it's this leadership workshop that this friend called Jeremy introduced me to it. And my mom's friend told me all about it. And I was in the middle of the day off, and I was upset about what happened with my friend. Um, and he was in the intermediate class, so he had to persuade someone to actually join the class.
Okay.
And then he was trying to persuade me to join it, and I wasn't sure about it. And then I joined it. I was like, well, you know what? I have nothing else. I got laid off. I had bronchitis, and my friend took a metaphorical crap on my birthday and kind of ruined it by kind of yelling at me and getting mad at me and stuff. And I had bronchitis for 3 weeks. Why not just go to another? Why don't I just try something new?
I
And I've
mean,
been having
what
a
an
hard few
opportunity.
years during COVID. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I feel like you told me that it was life changing. Is that accurate?
Yeah, we did so much. We did so many exercises like, if we meet some, if we like so, if we trust someone or not. We did other exercises where whether we want to, we just what four choices. There's four choices in life when you meet someone. You can either neglect them, you can dare nod politely at them, you can shake hands, you can shake their hand, or you can embrace them like wholesomely.
Hmm.
And then they want us to do an actual like physical hug when we embrace someone, like a real strong hug. And then to shake the hand, we shake their hands like this.
Okay.
And then we had to do that with other 70 other students.
Wow.
And then we also had to they told us to do this one thing that was very shocking, which is we had to spread love in the big Taipei community, big Taipei city area. And you know what they said next? They said, "I want you to hug a stranger, hug as much strangers as possible, and find a way to do that." And I'm like, "Huh?" I was the only one that I was like, "Huh?" And she's like, "Yes, do it. Don't just like don't just say it. Do it." They have a phrase, 无论如何, which means no matter what, do it.
Okay.
Just do it. Just like no matter what. Don't say I wish, I wish, I wish. Say I do. No matter what, I'm gonna do it. Pretty much like what you were talking about earlier about me. I was like
Yeah.
that before.
Yeah, I
And
can see
then
that resonating with you because it seems like you live that way.
I lived that way, and then I maybe have lost it for a while.
Okay.
And going through the leadership workshop made me realize that I always had that fire within me for all these years, but maybe I just lost it. And this leadership workshop, like we had to spread love by hugging people, and then probably it was the fourth day of our 5 day, 40-hour workshop. Very long. We had to hear a lot of lectures. We had to do a lot of simulations of like We had emotional music. It's very Taiwanese, by the way. There's a lot of emotional music, and then they tell us to think back about our lives and how our parents treated us when we were younger, and how we think of how they treated us when we were younger. And probably they're like, imagine this person in front of you, and you're touching their face, and you're peeling back the layers of their surfaces, the outside skin, and then you're looking within their soul, blah blah blah. And then it's very leadership workshopy, right? It is. It sounds like that, right?
Yeah.
And then and then I do simulations of trying. We had this like literally there was one exercise where we had to scream, "What do you want?" And the iPad, and we had to scream like what we want loudly, and then we had to do that over 30 minutes, and we had to take turns with our partner. And that was like, I was like, what does this kind of help? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
And there's this like red and black game where we had to pick red or black, and whether we pick red or black, we might get negative 3 points or plus 3 points, and we have to get the biggest negative positive number. And what it taught me is that being a leader doesn't mean just winning for yourself; it's winning for the whole community. And I've always believed in that
Yeah.
and how important that was. And yeah, and then I pretty much going back to the hugging strangers part. In the end, I found a way to hug 35 strangers in the streets of Taipei, and within like 3 hours.
Wow.
It wasn't that
How
hard.
was that? Was that awkward or was that okay?
It wasn't awkward.
Good for you.
They're very nice. I was shocked actually. And I felt like this 40-hour workshop changed my life so much. It made me more aware of my weaknesses and not blame myself or beat myself up for it. Take responsibilities of my actions and promises are very important. And winning is about creating the biggest win for everyone and not only winning for yourself. And we had to spread out what we want and then scream out what we want. And then we had another exercise where we had three other people represent your doubts. And then one of them will come forward and say, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. And I was like, I can, I can, I can. I had to yell out very loudly. And I had to scream at them until they be quiet.
Wow.
And then,
Is it
and
appropriate
then
to ask you what you screamed that you wanted? You don't have to tell us, but do you want to tell us?
yes, yes. I had three doubts.
No, I want to
Maybe
know
feel
the thing you
like,
wanted, but you don't have to
um,
tell us if you don't want to. That's up to you.
I think I said something about like, um, I want to be accepted, and they say you will not be accepted, you'll not be accepted, you'll not be accepted, and I'm like, I won't be accepted, I won't be accepted, I won't be accepted, and then someone behind me will support me that you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. Pretty much like there's multiple people in this exercise, and then there's another person talking about, oh, you're never gonna change, you're always gonna be this way, blah 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 blah, and they yelled at me, and then I had to scream at them back. It's very unorthodox, but it somehow changed my life. And I've been taking action to do a lot of other stuff. And like for example, I've done a new podcast on my Autism Rocks events account on Instagram, and I've filmed 11 episodes so far.
Nice.
And I have applied for jobs, and I went on 4 interviews since last year, December. And then I've been more proactive, and my mom really seen me change, and my relationship with my mother really changed too. Like we've been more open with each other, and she's been more pleasantly surprising. She's changed too,
I love your
and
mom.
we and,
Keep
and
doing
we
my
and
best.
we yeah, and we communicated better and really helped our relationship. This workshop is life changing. I mean, like after I got laid off, I was devastated, and what happened with Howard was sad, and during the workshop, he did block me and stuff, but I was sad for a bit, and our group leader, who's been to the beginners, the intermediate, and the high class, the higher class, told me that he chose to neglect you, and you have to accept that fact and move on from it because he's not the only person that's going to come into your life. There's going to be other people,
Yeah, it's true.
and
So tell us a little bit more about the podcast. How do we get to it? On Instagram?
yeah, on Instagram. Yeah, I want to talk about my live stream issues at hand with Alex Taylor. And it talks about the tackle, yeah, at Autism Rocks events, it happens bi-weekly and or weekly podcast, and I created because of recent events from the election,
Yeah.
and I don't also because of my workshop, and I wanted to tackle a new perspective of autism from an autistic person,
Yeah.
not just like a podcast with with a parent with a kid with autism. I actually wanted a different podcast where I talk about the true side of what people with autism feel, and I want to try to represent that. And I
Great.
want,
You
yeah,
know, I applaud that.
yeah, and then I also want people on the spectrum, and also hear parents with kids on the spectrum. They come on my show. They talk about their issues their kids are having, and I give them advice on how they should deal with it.
Right.
And yeah, I want to talk about the real side of autism, like and we talked about the vaccines causing autism controversy, and we talked about how you should treat someone with autism and how you can help them better and be more sympathetic towards them, and how you can be nicer to them and be more patient
Yeah.
and understanding, and how like people, like for example, I talked about this in my recent episode in Issues at Hand, is that people always talk about like, oh, we should find the cause of autism, and and it sounds very negative when they always say that, oh, like I don't, they always say like, whether it's Democrat or Republican. I also did some confirmation training recently that they're like, oh, I'm like, I wish I could find a cause of autism, and they make it like sound like they're trying to guilt trip us and make us feel bad for the kid, and oh, they have autism, so it's like a very bad thing, and we should feel sad for them. But they shouldn't do that. Like, they should actually be talking about the real issue at hand, which is the bullying epidemic that's happening to people on the spectrum. Every single day of their lives, they're fighting to be accepted, fighting to be known, and there's other and there are people out there that are wasting their time talking about the cause of autism when they can be actually helping someone on the spectrum, which is they want friends, they want to have support, they want to have the resources like extra time and assistance in society and acceptance and love, and maybe like going on a date, or like, or how to get a job and stuff. They should talk about that. They should talk about that. That's the main thing that they should be talking about. They should look. I mean, like, the cause of autism, yes, it's very important, but my personal opinion is, I think, as a person on the spectrum that have lived a life for 26 years, I can say that a lot of people, a lot of foundations have ignored that part, and they should look at that side, solving that bullying epidemic, and making those people without autism be more educated about autism, and not just that parent. That's why I did this concert in the first place, because I wanted to let people understand what autism really is, which is they're like everyone else. They want friendship, love, a community, a family. They want everything that you want, anyone else, a neurotypical person wants, but they're just they just can't, like, socially they're not like adapt at it. You know what I mean? They're good at it. So people have to kind of include. Sometimes people have to take the first step and include that person on the spectrum so they can understand better and understand how the world works, and then there's a balance there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Both sides are actually working at it, not just only one side. It always feels like it's one-sided sometimes. You know, it's always like, oh, it's like you have to change for me because you're the minority in society, and you're autistic, and you're only one in 33 kids, 34 kids that have autism in America, blah blah. So it doesn't matter, but it does matter. It matters the most because I live in Taiwan, and we talk about this a lot. That I come from a country full of minorities. Taiwan is a minority country themselves. We're not internationally well known in the world, and we have to fight for our right every single time. And every single election, it feels like the last because like China had repeatedly bullied us and took away our allies. But I admire how the Taiwanese people come back and fight against China and say that we are a country and we will not be silenced because you told us to be quiet. And that I admire that. You know, that's why I love Taiwan and being Taiwanese. You know.
And we didn't say at the start of the interview that you're coming to us live from Taiwan, and
Yeah,
that's where you live, that's where you're a citizen. But you went to high school many years here in the United States,
correct.
and
Yes,
I remember there was a moment when we didn't know where you were going to settle, but you decided to go back to Taiwan. And I know you have such pride in your country, and but you stay. You mentioned with the election, you stay very involved in what's happening in the United States. You have friends and I think family here, and you know like the rest of the world, you're keeping a close eye. And autism has been in the news cycle in a different way recently than it previously has. I'm interested in your opinion as a person. What words do you use, Alex, to identify yourself? Do you say on the spectrum? Do you say autistic? What words do you
I
use?
think I use autistic these days.
Okay. And so, as an autistic individual, when you're, and you touched on it briefly, but how is this going for you? And this is just your opinion about what you're hearing in the news and the context in which you're hearing autism. I know a lot of parents, especially around Elon Musk, the word comes up, and I'm curious what your thoughts are.
Um, yeah, I mean, on my podcast, I mean, that's why I did more episodes on my recent podcast talking about this because it's so important.
Yeah.
The when they brought like for example, Donald Trump recently wrote on his I think social media account that oh there's 1 in 2,000 kids with autism before and now why are there 1 in 34 like what is the cause of that like we have to fix that. I mean like to me that impact the president of the United States is kind of implying that we have to be fixed when there's nothing wrong with us in the first place, which is very offensive to me. And we have to stop like we have to stop the demonization of autism and to stop making people pity people with autism. We should make people appreciate them for who they are and how different they are. I mean, do we do that for like how about LGBTQ people? Do we shame them for being gay? We're like, oh, I'm so sorry you're gay or bisexual or trans. No one like not a lot of people do that these days. I mean, there's still people that will do that, but most of them will be like, I still support you. You know what I mean? They'll
I
not say
hope
like,
it's most of people. I hope it's most.
yeah. They'll not pity them and say like, oh, I'm so sorry, and they'll like for the cause and blah blah blah. And I feel like I want to talk about this issue because I feel like no one's talking about how it's making people with autism really feel when they hear the vaccine and autism link. Which I think to be honest, as a person on the spectrum, I feel disgusted about it and mad about it because which they have every right to because it implies that we have some kind of disease, which is not true because it is a condition or disorder or a way of life per se. I mean, would you say that if I mean, what if someone talked about vaccines causing someone to be gay? That's not true either, right? That'll be very offensive to them, and I'm shocked that no one with autism has brought this up. That it makes it sound like we have a disease, but it's not.
Well,
And
and obviously there's lots of different opinions about it. But that's why
yeah,
I wanted to make time for you to share your opinion about that. We're already down to the bare few minutes here, Alex, and I know you wanted if you want to say more about that you can, but I know you also wanted to talk about the concert and an update about Autism Rocks.
yes. I mean, since the leadership workshop, I have been soul searching and they have no matter what, do it right. And one of my plans was I got inspired by this workshop. Is for years and years. Let me tease something to you. For years and years, my mom and I, and my dad, my parents and I, have talked about doing Autism Rocks in Taiwan. It's always come up, and I always said no, 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 no. But after seeing the workshop and hearing one of my cousin-in-law's girlfriend talking about that people are underdiagnosed and not getting the help that they need in Taiwan, how I think how people last year there was a person with disability on stage being mocked by a late night talk show host in Taiwan, and then this is the amazing thing is everyone rallied behind this person with I think muscle contraction syndrome or something, and I was so touched by that, and it showed me that people in Taiwan can change, even though 10 years ago, like for example, 10 years ago they weren't accepting towards LGBTQ people, and they became the first country to legalize gay marriage and also have the first female president in 2016, and she was the one to make that happen. Which, if my role model, former President Tsai Ing-wen, and she is one of the bravest and my biggest role models. I want to follow. I mean, other than my grandmother, of course, because they're both very inspirational and very brave women.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So do you think you're going to do a concert in Taiwan then? I guess if you're going to do it no matter what then.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a meeting on Friday to talk about it, and I hope it goes well. So give me prayers for that.
You got it.
Yeah, I'm planning to do one in Taiwan, and I do have to. This is one thing. I just don't know whether I should talk about it.
Well, maybe hold it because we literally have like a minute left. Hold it till the
Oh,
next time. But
wait, wait,
I don't know if you're gonna, let us know if whatever you're gonna do a concert. Let us know what the dates are.
wait. Hold
Okay.
on, hold on.
All right.
I can say it. I can say it. Okay,
All
I
right.
can say it. We're doing the 8th annual Autism Rocks. Like, this is exclusive on June 28th,
Okay.
and we're having someone on the spectrum co-hosting it with me, and you might it is she, you might know her on a very famous show, on a streaming show, but I'm not going to name the streaming show because it's a surprise. But you'll have to tune in to our account in the next few months to see what will happen next. That's all I can say. That's all I can say.
Now,
But it's going to
is
be
that going to
amazing.
be at the Universal stage again? Universal stage?
Yes, it's confirmed that it's going to be happening at University Walk, June 28th, 2025, probably 6 to 9 p.m., I'm guessing.
Okay.
Around that.
I'm excited. Normally you do it on my anniversary and I can never come. So there's a possibility I'm going to be able to make it to this. We'll see. I don't see why not. Alex, we're out of time. But it's always lovely to connect with you and hear what's going on with you and to hear your honesty and, how you're learning and growing and becoming the person that you always intended to be, So I just from the heart, I love having known you now for 10 years?
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
I feel I'm like 26 now. It's crazy,
Yeah.
almost 30.
I think, 26 is a ways away from 30. Let's, but it's been a privilege to know you and watch you grow. And please give your parents my love and my best. And we'll look forward to having you back, to hear more about the concerts, both of them. Because I know you, and I have a very strong feeling that there will be a concert in Taiwan in the next 12 months.
Look at what they say. They say the year of the tiger, which is my zodiac, it has better luck in the year of the snake, which is this year, right now. So let's hope that fortune is true.
I think I'm a tiger too, but I'm not sure. I need to relook it up. But Alex, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. We really appreciate it, and I wish you all the best.
Yeah, so everyone stay tuned for the co-host announcement, and we have one performer confirmed so far, and other than that, the two performers confirmed. And other than that, I'm not gonna say anything else because I'm gonna leave it in the next few months to announce it on the Autism Rocks event, and please, and I also want to tell the viewers to tune in around 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern time for my next episode of Issues at Hand on
Okay.
the Autism Rocks events. Yeah.
We'll stay tuned. Thank you so much, Alex.
Thank you so much for having me, Shannon.
I just want to say to everybody, we're all the way out of time, but we've got some great shows next week. I think it's on Monday. I don't have my schedule in front of me that we're having Nick Yates on, an amazing gentleman in his own right that we've featured many times before on the show to tell his update on his life, which will be exciting. We've got great authors lined up, some amazing shows coming. So make sure that you tune in for that. We will be back on Monday, and I believe we're back live with Ask Dr. Doreen on Tuesday. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye bye for now. Bye, Alex.
Bye.
If you found anything helpful in this video, please give us a like. In fact, make sure that you smash that subscribe button on YouTube and give us a like on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Instagram for important updates. And please download our free podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you so much. See you next time.